Drifting is dangerous. You see, it doesn't feel like failure. It actually feels like you're working. It feels like you're busy. But see, the thing is, when you start drifting, the years pass. And while it feels like you're being busy and you're being productive, nothing actually changes. See, drifting doesn't feel like failure. It actually feels like work. There's 5 high level signs I want to share with you. Signs that you can look for these signs in your life or your business, and the signs that your life or business might be drifting. And maybe you need to drill down a little bit. Maybe the wording isn't exactly what you're seeing. It could be like it's overlapping with it. And you feel like, no, that's not me, but I'm seeing similar results. Look, the first step, the first sign, number one, is that you're always reacting. I remember this boss I had, this manager, this leader that I worked under years ago. And this was had to be 15 years ago. And I remember when I first started working underneath this manager, this leader, I was like, man, this guy's annoying. I felt like he was micromanaging me. And to an extent, maybe he was. But what he was doing, because I took that, instead of looking for the negative, I looked for the positive that I got from it. And I realized one of the things he was teaching me was something so beneficial, not just in the role that I was in the business, in managing 8-figure projects and up to 80 something guys. You see, when you're always reacting, you spend your day firefighting. One of the things he was training me for was to be proactive. And at first I didn't see that. And it's tough to see because, especially as men, but as human beings in general, we have this thing that gets in the way quite often. It's called our ego. So we really don't want to let our guard down and believe that maybe, just maybe, this person's right. Maybe we're not doing something to the best of our ability. And we end up spending our entire days in firefighting mode. And even worse, that firefighting, sometimes those fires are caused by the arsonist, which is us. We're setting those fires in our life and in our business just so we can fight those fires and we can feel like we're being useful and productive. We spend the day responding to emails. We're constantly fighting and solving problems. We're solving issues with customers or employees. The thing is, a lot of these issues, they could be handled proactively so they don't become an issue. One of the things that I discovered recently is that the communication between the employees or the customers, and this could be because of, for lack of better words, poor leadership, where we're not communicating clearly enough or confidently enough. So people don't really fully understand what the proper process is. And quite often it means we start the day by reacting. We're waiting for the problems to arise so we can react to them. Instead of starting the day by leading, by saying, this is how the day is going to go, by leading the people that look up to us. And sometimes we need to lead ourselves. See, then what happens is the schedule gets hijacked because, number one, you probably haven't made a solid schedule. You probably have a very vague schedule. I'm not calling out, I've done the same thing in the past. Sometimes you get a little wishy-washy and say, you know what, I'm going to leave space in my schedule because I need to have flexibility. And your schedule ends up getting hijacked and you don't lead a day of intention. You lead a day of firefighting and just doing whatever needs to be the emergency that needs to be handled at that moment. And quite often, builders, whether you're building a business, whether you're building a company, whether you're building a team that you're leading, whether you're building your own life, Builders often think that by living your days this way, by constantly putting out fires, dealing with customer and employee issues, and reacting instead of leading, or letting your schedule get hijacked, oftentimes builders think that this is leadership, but it isn't. If you're always putting out fires, you're not leading. Look, it's the intention of the day. When you start your day having intention for how the day is going to go, that means you got to start your day as a leader. And leading requires planning and direction, right? And that takes intention. That's saying, okay, this is the roadmap for the day. And I get it. I've been in roles. If you're in a service-based role, quite often you have to be in somewhat of a responsive and reactive mode. But your entire day doesn't need to be responsive or reactive. You don't have to spend your entire day putting out fires. You need the structure. You need the intention to build your day and plan your day and the direction your day is going in. Because even though you're putting out fires, if you're just putting out fires for the sake of putting out fires, you're not really heading in any direction, are you? You're just waiting until the next fire pops up. And and that leads to living in a reactive state. And living and acting and leading in a reactive state is survival mode. Maybe that's why your life or your business is where it is and where it's stalled. Maybe the reason your life or business is stalled is because you're reacting and living in survival mode. The second sign is that you're busy, but you're not advancing. You're always doing stuff. You're the busiest person in the room. You're always doing stuff. You're constantly in motion. You feel like you're never getting stuff done, but you're always working. So you're not really having progress. You're just doing stuff. Look, you could jump in your vehicle, your car, your truck, whatever you drive, and say, I'm going to go to the grocery store. But all you do is drive around the block. You're being busy, you're moving, but you're not making progress on where you need to go to. See, that could also look like you're sitting at your desk just answering emails, email after email after email. What if instead of spending your day waiting for emails to come in and answering them, hear me out on this one, this is going to be a crazy idea here, real crazy. What if instead of sitting there waiting for those emails to come in, you put a 1 hour block in the morning and a 1 hour block in the afternoon to answer your emails? Here's reality. I hear all the time, and I can hear you right out. But Doug, I can't do that. I can't serve my customers like that. They need a quicker response. Do they? Do you need to personally answer every single email within 10 minutes? Or is that something you've said so you can feel productive? See, studies have shown that when we get interrupted in a task we're doing, it can take on average 25 minutes. Once you're interrupted, 25 minutes to get refocused and back into flow state for the task you're working on. So while it may have only taken 30 seconds to read that email and 60 seconds to respond, you're thinking, oh, it's only 90 seconds. But how long did it take you to get back into the flow state, to get back to where you were with the task you were previously doing? Or maybe you're dealing with low-level problems, problems that really aren't that big of a deal. Maybe if it's in your business, you could have somebody else in the business handling those problems. One of the great things that I've seen happen so many times with so many businesses, and I often sit down with the business owner and we do this together and we structure out the problems of the company, and we create this high level meeting overview where it just gives a guideline, a schedule for how the meeting's going to go. And part of that schedule, part of that template is we list the 10 top problems, what we think are the 10 top problems. Then from those 10, decide which one's the top three. And quite often what happens when you deal with those top three problems, you're going to see that some of those other seven that you didn't address are actually just byproducts of the first three. So figure out, is this small problem worth addressing right now? Or is it something that you don't need to address yourself, or maybe it's something that's not really a problem at all. It also looks like you're doing work that doesn't move the business forward. Again, dealing with small problems. You see, as a business owner, as a builder, whether it's your business, your life, your career, we get caught up in this trap of doing these things, running around, dealing with small problems, doing work that doesn't move the business or our life forward, answering emails that we shouldn't be answering at that time. We get caught in this trap because it feels like we're being productive. And it feels like we're being productive because we're exhausted. We're exhausted because we're not doing what sets our souls on fire. We're not doing what actually moves the needle forward. See, activity and progress are not the same thing. Stop pretending that they are. The third sign is that comfort starts creeping in. I talked about this in a previous video, and the comfort zone, it can be dangerous. You see, we build a business and things start to go well. Business becomes stable. Things become more predictable. And I see this all the time. It happens more often than you think. You may think, oh man, I thought I was the only person, or that would never happen to me. The amount of times that people say that would never happen to me, or I'm the only person, is astonishing because it happens to more people than you would believe. The business becomes stable, and then the owner becomes bored and starts looking for the next challenge. You see, the reality is, whether it's in your business or your personal life, that boredom can actually help get you to that next level. That's what's going to stabilize and keep your growth going. Because when you get to that level in your business where it's stable, quite often what happens is the business owner is saying, well, I need a new challenge. And I remember having a conversation with an owner a while ago where he was in a similar position. It was like Groundhog Day over and over again, the movie Groundhog Day. And he was frustrated with it. He was bored with it, really. He had enough of it. And I challenged him to find somebody to put into a role that would take pressure off him and his business. So he wouldn't have to work in his business so much. He could spend time working on his business, but also spend time with his family. See, we get caught up in this ego or the societal norm that we've got to grind, we got to work 80 plus hours to be successful. If hard work alone was the key to success, if hard work alone was what made you rich, I could think of a lot of people that work really hard, physically demanding jobs that aren't rich. So stop with that grind mindset of I have to work hard to be successful. See, once he did that, once he kind of put that mindset aside and he got that person to roll, he enjoyed more family time. And another thing that happens is your systems start to settle. And look, systems are great, systems are amazing in the right context. You see, systems can set you free, but they can also stifle creativity. See, if you want to build a business that you can sell one day, you need to have systems in place because nobody wants to buy a business that's just an overrated job. When you want to sell your business, there needs to be systems in place so a new owner can walk in and operate the business without having to call you every 5 minutes. And realistically, if you sold your business, do you want to be talking to the new owner every 5 minutes, being their consultant? Or did you want to sell the business to get out of it? And you may say, oh, I have no plans on selling my business. Someday you're going to have to exit that business. What's the plan when you exit it? Build the systems now. And yes, it can be boring building systems. It can be boring following systems. And on the flip side of systems can set you free, they can also stifle creativity. So you don't want to build your systems to the point and have them follow to a T where you have these high achieving, super successful leaders in your business that are handcuffed to a system because they need to have that freedom to operate in their own zone of genius. But you see, the system settling in, it gets kind of boring. It's repetitive. It's like Groundhog Day over and over again. Your income, it becomes predictable. See, nothing's wrong with all this. But the thing is, growth slows. And comfort isn't evil. But what happens is too much comfort, it starts to create drifting. Comfort doesn't destroy growth overnight. It just slows it down. And being comfortable and staying in your comfort zone are two different things. Having your business or your life run comfortably and growing comfortably is different than saying, okay, you know what? I've made it here. I'm just gonna stay right here. I'm not gonna change anything else. I'm gonna stay right here. Those are two different things. As you grow comfortably, boredom can set in, and that's why you need to challenge yourself as well continuously. Sign number four. Yeah. How about English? Sign number four. You start comparing instead of building. See, comparison is the thief of joy. And there's so many things out there distracting us. Social media is massive. We go on there and we see these influencers with Lamborghinis or the mansions or the private jets. Sometimes that private jet is actually not a private jet at all. It's a little photo booth set up. Maybe they rented that Lamborghini or the Ferrari or the McLaren just to take a photo so they can pretend that they're having all this success. We get distracted by that. We start thinking, oh, why don't I have that yet? Or how about watching your competitors? One of my mentors, I love this saying, is that losers pay attention to what winners are doing, and winners are paying attention to winning. Stop watching your competition. Pay attention to what you're doing and focus on your growth. Focus on winning, whether it's in your business or in your life. Another one is watching gurus. Man, that's the term guru. It's such a horrible term, and we see it all the time. There's these gurus who say they have the be all, end all, fix all. And they're the ones renting these private jets or the photo booths that are private jets. And then we end up feeling behind because, like, man, I should be here by now. I should have that success because that person has it. Why don't I have it? And we start laying guilt on ourselves because we're feeling behind. You see, not only is comparison the thief of joy, but it also drains the focus from building. And the moment you start comparing, you stop building. So get rid of that disease of comparisonitis and focus on yourself. Sign number 5 is you stop auditing yourself. I mean, how often does that happen? More often than you think. You see, we grow so much and then we get comfortable and we're like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. I'm the best leader there is. I don't need to change anything. See, part of the audits that I do for myself and I help other leaders with is my audit of wit. At the end of every day, I audit my day. And also ties to the morning. Okay, so I know I'm going to audit myself. So I need to focus to make sure that I follow this every day. And that audit I do is the acronym WIT, W-I-T. Wisdom, intention, and thankfulness. So part of my day is looking to gain and share wisdom. Live my day with intentionality instead of drifting through the day. Live my day thankfully. See, most people, they never stop and evaluate their day. And that's where the drifting happens. They just coast through the day, never really paying attention to what they're doing in the day. And they just repeat the same patterns over and over and over again. And they create their own Groundhog Day and wonder why they feel stuck. See, the self audit is not about pointing out flaws, it's not about looking for what's wrong, it's about creating awareness. Self awareness, the lack of self awareness for so many individuals is astonishing. And self-awareness can be your superpower. Because when you develop that self-awareness, now you're seeing what you're doing, good and bad, where you need to grow, where you need to drop things, where you need to quit doing things that no longer serve you, and what's working well. Without any sort of awareness, drifting continues or expands. If you don't audit your days, your life is just going to drift. Look, I want to close this out with a couple of things. You see, drifting, it doesn't happen suddenly. It's not all of a sudden one morning you wake up, you start drifting. It happens over time. It slowly builds. It's a compounding effect. It's one unintentional day at a time. You let something slip. Then you start to lose focus. You get bored. Do the same routine over and over again. But the thing is, doing that routine over and over again, when it's a routine that's productive and a positive one that's going to help you grow, help your business grow, help your life improve, when that is that type of routine, it's important to keep it. And that helps to stay away from the drifting, having that intentionality. And sometimes as high achievers, one of the hardest things for us to do is to stop or pause or slow down. Sometimes it's just having a day where we're not doing anything, where we're saying, you know what, I'm not going to do work. I'm not going to do whatever activities. I'm just going to have a day of rest. See, that's intention there. Say, okay, I'm going to take today to focus on myself. I'm going to take today to focus on my family. That kind of intentionality compounds. It's drifting. It happens when you stop paying attention. So I encourage you to pay attention. I challenge you to pay more attention in your life and audit your life. Where are you drifting? See, if you're drifting right now, you probably already know it. And the thing is, the moment you recognize it is the moment you can change direction. It's never too late to change direction. But the thing is, the further down that wrong road you go, the further you travel in the wrong direction, the further you have to travel back to the right one. The more difficult it can be to turn around and come back to that right direction. But it's not impossible. You can always do it. So my challenge to you, look at your life. Audit your life. What parts in your life are you currently drifting in?